Okay, looks like we're good.
Oh, excellent.
Okay, so let's call this meeting to order. This is October 4th. This is the meeting of the Commissioners of Poolesville. It's October 4th, 2021. It looks like everyone is here waiting on Jim, and we have Tony Tomasello, our town manager, with us, as well as Jack J. Gullo, our town attorney. And Ed, would you like to lead us in the pledge this evening?
Sure. And it looks like Jim is connecting now, so we'll have him as well. But give him a second to get on. All right. Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag
The flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First up on our agenda is our commissioner committee reports. I'll just go ahead here real quickly. We had the big flea this past weekend, and Kathy let me know that it was well received and had a good amount of residents attending. So that's good to know. That was back on. We're going to be discussing the rest of the events, mainly our events in December, later on our agenda. So I'll just wait for that discussion to happen a little bit down the line. Martin, I'll let you go ahead next.
So the Planning Commission meets next Wednesday. As far as I know at this point, we do have a meeting scheduled. I don't have anything to report at this point other than the fact that we're remaining open and flexible for doing work sessions for input for the master plan. We've done several of those already. I think we've gone through most of the people that want to present, I think, but we have a few more. But yeah, so I'll have more of a report for you in 2 weeks after next week's meeting.
Great.
You recall we did not meet last month.
Right.
If I could add, the consultant contract is now ready to be executed tomorrow. So if you want the consultants to be scheduled to come in and do a kickoff meeting or something like that, that's fine. Also, we had a meeting with the Economic Development Group, who is also interested in being on the rotation for providing input in the master plan process to some further degree than they already have, if they already have.
So Tony, are you just planning to send around some dates for a possible kickoff meeting? Or?
Frankly, I was deferring to the chair and Martin to whether this was going to slot in their regular meeting spaces or whether they're going to have different. And we're also not, we haven't really been formally introduced to the consultants. So I think once that happens, it'll be a little bit easier. Remembering that the consultant's main job is public outreach and promotion of the process versus, the actual development of the plan. So I think, we should know that pretty soon, but I do defer, at least I'm used to deferring to the chair and the liaison to decide, where this is going to go. Yeah,
in this case, I think Brian will have to decide because it's his, it's kind of his committee. So we'll get his input and figure out.
Well, you guys will be getting an email tomorrow that the agreement has been executed, and to me, that's the jumping off point for scheduling whatever it is you guys want to schedule.
Very good. I'll look for that. Thanks, Tony.
Great, thank you. Ed.
Hey, Jay, great to see you back. I hope things are going well for you. All right, I can read lips, so that's cool. All right, so looking at sustainable Poolesville, it's one of the big things that the committee's working on is just an action plan for the recertification for the 2024. And so it's in addition to a lot of the town's ongoing sustainability initiatives and projects. So there's a list of things that the committee have shared. And what I'll do, Tony, if you haven't got a copy of that action plan, I'll send you a copy of it. But I'll send you a copy of it just to have record of it. But there are things such as sustainable Maryland training, community supported agriculture, spring, fall plant sale, climate action plan, the public art, pesticide free zones, expansion of pollinator habitats, green business and green residence awards. And so, but we had certification back in 2018. And so now it's time to get recertified in 2024. But I'll forward you, Tony, and the rest of the commissioners, I'll copy you the action plan. All right.
Sounds good. Thank you. And Jim.
Hey, first question, does the consulting contract, has that been circulated to commissioners? And if not, can I get a copy of it?
Sure.
Any reason why not? I just want to look at it. You know, I'm sure I won't have any comments. So when you get the chance, if you could send it, that would be great.
Okay.
Thank you for that. And then also too, before, I know you have an economic development committee, something's going on there, but I just want to make sure everybody knows before I get into fair access that we actually have 3 prominent town vacancies getting ready to happen. One is where Potomac Valley Surveys used to be, which is right across the street from the Liberty. One is that the eye doctors have bought Dr. Asunction's old building, and they are moving into, so their spot, which is next to my office, will be vacant. And as we know, the BB&T will be vacant as well whenever their lease, they're going to interrupt their lease. So we're going to have 3 very prominent and actually maybe opportunistic vacancies for people that are interested in doing something, creating business, doing something to move into any one of our zones. And I think the ones where the Potomac Valley Surveys, as well as the office next to mine, are going to be bargains. So if people are looking to take a home-based business and bring it out to a bricks and mortar setup, these are going to be some good opportunities. But those are pretty prominent vacancies for us, fortunately or unfortunately. 2 of the businesses are staying in town, so you know, not a total net loss there. Anyway, so that's I just want to get those in before we got rolling on this.
Hey, Jim, can I interrupt you to ask you,
Sure. Yeah.
is the Chinese place closed?
Not officially.
Okay.
Not officially. You know, he's been sick, and COVID was a big deal combined with him being sick. And but no, they're not actively trying to fill that spot.
Okay, good.
Still has a lease. He has paid his lease at times. And then that's just it. It's still, yes. So the answer to your question is definitely not closed by any measure of being official or not. Okay. Also, too, as you guys know, Dr. Eag's office is, I believe, going to be moving into where the bakery used to be and where I have my Do a Coffee comes in on the weekends. Dr. Eag's office is most likely going to move there. So the vacancy in that building will slide to the other end. So, and the landlord there, which I hope the Economic Development Committee gets a chance to reach out to, and I can definitely do an intro. He's a great guy. He definitely wants to do whatever he can do to help Poolesville. He's willing to work with any company that wants to move into his building or to BB&T, and he will convert BB&T to just about anything that if somebody wants to do something. He's already talked about work share. He's talked about brewery, craft brew. He's talking about a bunch of different things, not afraid to invest in Poolesville. So, and in it for the long haul too. So, anyway, that's a quick little update. That's 3 of our kind of shopping centers that are all being affected by these vacancies right now. So, anyway, that's a little real estate aside. So for fair access, we've got a lot going on, and I'll try and climb through it. Anybody has any questions, just hit me up at the end. This is kind of in a random order because we kind of reviewed all this today. You know, as you guys know, Poolesville Day, the breakfast was an amazing success. Thanks to all the commissioners for showing up. You guys did a great job too of glad handing, back patting, talking, being present, speaking to the guys about the issues. You guys were our emissaries, as well as all the other people from Fair Access. And we sent a really nice letter out to everybody thanking them for coming. And we heard back from many people that said, again, what a great get together. What a great way to hear more about Poolesville and what our goals are. And you guys saw it was a who's who of Montgomery County and Maryland politicians there. So hugely successful. And we're not really, we're kind of an election year, right? But the election year really is until next year. So, but to have these guys out and being in front of their game and talking to us, guys and ladies and gentlemen, it was an awesome turnout. So, and we've had some good follow up. And again, just thanks to the commissioners for both letting us do it and also getting us and being present and putting it out there. Now, in no real official order here, we have a guy, Jason Maxstein, that I think has contacted Tony and maybe Carrie about giving us a briefing on the redistricting committee and what they're up to. So this is going to be big for us, right? You guys know that we submitted a couple of different alternatives, one that basically includes all of the Ag Reserve and Germantown, and the other one includes Ag Reserve up to 270, and then Germantown and Clarksburg. So those are our two initial draft proposals. This is going to be a big deal. This is going to create a county council member spot and a different level of representation. So our third option is, of course, is we don't want to lose Andrew, but that's most likely just, fait accompli. We're not gonna be able to keep him. So those draft proposals we've already submitted. Jason is one of the people liaisons that's reached out to us. And most likely I will ask that we put it on the agenda for the next meeting that Jason give us a quick presentation. This is going to be as big for us as anything that we do in terms of getting politicians to work with us, elected officials. So that's a big one. And as I said, if you need to see the draft proposals, again, I know we're already sending them off to you guys. Link and I will be going in front of the Up County Advisory Board here one of these days, and we'll be doing a presentation in one of their meetings in the next two meetings that they have. And we've been talking a lot to Greg Wims, who's taken the place of Catherine Matthews, in terms of our main liaison to both the county and to the county executive. So Greg's been great. He's definitely on our side for a community center and for more fair access services provided by the county. And he's gotten to know Poolesville very well. And Greg is definitely knows the Up County. His whole family comes from around this area. So those. We sent a letter to the superintendent, which I will send to all you guys. School superintendent, plus Andrew Friedson, plus all members of the BOE, plus Seth and Adrian from the construction committee from Montgomery County, again, talking about the need for the gym to be expanded and to give us what we're looking for there. I'll have a little bit more on that in a minute. We did get thank you notes from everybody that was important on the list. I'll send what we sent to them out. It basically just crystallizes what fair access is looking for from the schools. The letter was written in cooperation with the PTSA, and David Griffith, who you guys know, was one of our speakers on Poolesville Day. So we've really kind of solidified the grit of what we're looking for between the two groups, and hopefully we've made a good impression. But we hit a lot of people with it, and we reached out to all of those guys again too. Link and I are going to be region and from Montgomery County, and we're looking forward to meeting with Seth. We think he has some good things to tell us. As you guys know, if you've probably seen some of the information that's been circulated around, I'll send you something that just came out a couple of minutes ago. They have been moving money around, and they've been reallocating resources, and they've been taking resources from potentially one school that's not ready for having some work done and moving it into their kitty, which we think is going to help fund what we're looking for from the gym. So I'll keep you guys in the loop on that. If Seth actually reached out to Lincoln and I wants to meet directly, so that's a good thing. Usually they don't want to, they only have bad news, so they don't necessarily want to meet. We're also meeting with Gabe Albornoz on Thursday. Gabe is doing a follow-up for Poolesville Day, and that said, Ed, we'd like to have you drag you down there too. So we're working on a time, and I'll get with you. I know you can't do anything that quick, but we want you to go. So that looks like on Thursday, sometime or another, we'll be meeting outside. Through channels, Mark Elridge has personally talked about our presentation. He has reached out through his people and said that they are definitely, and this is a great election year thing, to talk about a community center and having it funded and finishing up the gym funding. So he's up on this. He also is well aware of our health needs. And as you guys know, he did a pop-up for businesses in Poolesville the other day. Thanks again to all the commissioners that came to it. And he, got a chance to get his photo op in and have a good discussion with some of our business owners. So that was quickly thrown together, and I appreciate everybody jumping up and, advocating for Poolesville. I'm getting down the line here. Again, we're waiting to hear back from the DOTs on White's Ferry. Carrie, I don't know if you have anything more on that from David or anybody else.
Unfortunately, I don't right now.
Okay, that's fine. We did hear again from Caleb on the other side, the Loudoun County Board of Supervisors, and they're ready and still waiting for the DOT report to come out. They're going to let us know what's going on from the Loudoun County side. So I'm anticipating we're definitely still going to be organizing, going to a Board of Supervisors meeting in Loudoun County. Link, Katie Lawnbreak from WUMCO, and I all have been working with a private group that provides healthcare services and trying to noodle and brainstorm to figure out a way to bridge the gap to bring needed healthcare services up here. It's a private company that we just had a pretty in-depth conversation. We received a proposal from them. There's nothing to present to the commissioners yet. There's a lot like a vetting that kind of needs to go through this process. But if it's not these people, there is some promise out there for being able to supply needed healthcare services up here through a combination of telemedicine as well as a combination of telemedicine and in-person medical care. So we are working on it. Link is also and Katie are reviewing are standing up for both WUMCO and Fair Access for reviewing the bus service that comes to Poolesville. As you guys know, the bus service is awesome for students. We never want to disturb that, but it's bad for everybody else. So we're working on, the bus service that comes to Poolesville. As you guys know, the 76 bus has been coming forever on certain times. And in the end, it's just not working for the people that need to get down county besides students. So we've asked them to take a much harder look at how that bus service works and how it doesn't work for us in Poolesville. That's it. Any questions?
Great.
Everybody, anybody awake?
Yes, yeah, that was quite a lot. Yeah.
Anybody.
All right, so Jim, I take it you'll get back to me with a time and date for that Thursday?
Yes, and we can't do it this week. We're trying to get more notice, but we just got reached out to today, Ed, and we want to have Commissioner Muscle in there with you. So
This Thursday or next Thursday?
it's this Thursday. Do you have a specific time you're around in the afternoon at all?
Yeah, I'll get in touch with you. We'll look at
Okay. We've been reaching out and they just got back with us today. So sorry for no notice.
That's fine.
Is there still a plan to go over to the Loudoun County Supervisors meeting?
No question.
November-ish?
Yeah. Unless we don't have to, right? Unless something happens that makes it so that it could be a more positive outcome without having to do that.
Okay.
We're hoping that's the case.
Okay.
They're still fired up over there. They want us, and they need us to talk about it.
Cool. Good. Thank you.
I thought of one other thing that I failed to mention earlier. I've been talking with Pastor Chuck Copeland at Hosanna Community Church. And so they're partnering with Memorial United Methodist, to do a vaccine and testing clinic. So it's this Thursday and Friday. And he gave me some specific times, 11 to 6 on Thursday and 9 to 4 on Friday. So it's this Thursday and Friday happening at United Methodist. And thanks again to Greg Wims. I know he was instrumental in making this happen, working through DHHS. And Jeff.
Well, we have our Parks meeting on Wednesday, so I don't have anything to report there. But I really do want to take a moment and thank Preston King for his really excellent help on Poolesville Day. We had our EMS folks kind of chasing back and forth, and Preston King he showed up on the scene with his golf cart, and he he was just such a great help. He'd move people back to their car. They could sit in the air conditioning because everybody knows that all of a sudden it turned really quite hot and the sun was relentless. Yeah, so he was just fantastic and always had a smile, always willing to help and say, what do you need next? And can't say enough about it. So thank you, Preston, if you're watching.
Staff was definitely on point on Poolesville Day.
Yeah.
And you guys were tested, Jeff.
We were.
You guys were on the run.
Yeah, we were on the run.
But you guys make quite a combo between town staff and the
Yes,
service you guys provide.
Everyone got taken care of properly, and yeah. So I really wanted to thank Preston for helping us out quite a bit.
Great job.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, that's all. I'll have more next time.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. So now we are on to approval of minutes. We have 3 sets of minutes. September, our regular business meeting from September 7th, our business meeting from September 20th, and then our closed session from September 29th. Does anyone have any changes or any amendments to any of those minutes? Would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve all 3 sets of minutes.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And next we are on to public comment. Do we have anyone here to make public comment?
Do not.
Okay. So on our agenda next is old business, the first being the Maryland Energy Administration grant.
Okay, I'm going to admit
Grants. And I think this was
the title is
something that
is
we
grants.
first talked about back right before the world crashed.
Yes, March of 20.
Mhm.
And in fact, we're going to focus on one grant. I need to admit Khalid Malik
Okay.
into the room and give you a little bit of background. He's joining now. So it appears that it was discussed in March of 2020, but all the things that have happened in the world, no one really has much recollection of the topic.
Right.
We were awarded a small grant for planning and a small grant for construction of any number of options for energy efficiency related to streetlights, or frankly, any other purpose that we wanted to address it to. You got a lot of background information, a good bit of which is highly technical, which is apropos to the discussion, but what we really need tonight is just kind of a go or no go on the design phase which would be the first grant. It's a $26,000 Maryland Energy Administration grant. It's been awarded for some time. I've talked to MEA, to their representative, and they're being very patient about it. But they would like to know if we want to explore the topic. They even went so far as to say, if you design something that assists you in energy efficiency project, there won't be any particular pressure from the state to move to the construction phase until the town of Poolesville determines that it actually is in their best interest. For our part, it requires a $6,000 cash donation into the project, which is matched by the $24,000 or $26,000 grant from the state. I know Khalid. Khalid, if you're there, he is prepared, I believe, to provide a couple of minutes of background, because there are 3 basic options to be explored. We will not be able to tell you where this might go or what it might, any specific numbers about how it might reduce our energy costs or increase our energy footprint. This is really about discovering whether a design is feasible, which is a step you have to go through before you decide to undertake a capital project. So
But Tony, this is Jeff. So the whole idea here is to replace, I forget what the number is, the street lights with LED street lights in areas where there are not already LED street lights.
That is one option. And that's a little bit of a moving target too, because of course we do have an LED rate. For those people who may be watching, you have a fixed rate for streetlights, and they're not metered for the most part in Poolesville, and you pay a fixed rate per pole per light. So just swapping out to LED is kind of a different exercise than what we're talking about here. Talking about a microgrid, a potentially solar powered microgrid that, and I'll let Khalid jump in. He's obviously the expert. A solar powered microgrid that takes some of our lights off Potomac Edison's load or donates power into the grid, for which we get a credit that we can apply to, wherever we want to apply it. Oh, there's Khalid. So we had agreed Khalid might give us a 2 to 3 minute intro about the project without getting too technical, and then kind of circle back and see what people's opinions are. So you ready, Khalid?
Yes, thanks, Tony.
Okay.
I apologize for that. My camera didn't want to act right. So here I am. Greetings to everyone. It's nice to see all the smiling faces. Finally, I know you guys may have heard about these two grants when the previous town manager was in office, and I'm happy to see it get some teeth and get an audience. So just to follow up on what Tony was sharing with you guys, not to get too technical, but you guys are considering two grants. One is for the planning and design. The other one is more so for an implementation. Even before Seth was involved, I had a conversation with Wade about the streetlights being, a burden and some challenges in terms of with the utility company, as well as some code issues. And so the purpose of the design and planning grant was to develop some sort of solution around those parking lights, those street lights. What we're considering are three different concepts. One is, what would the solution look like for an individual pole? Just switching out the post stops, which is the majority of the lighting. The second would be looking at a particular circuit. And when I say circuit, I mean most of the footprints of the poles are about 2 to 5 poles on a transformer. Obviously, it's all unmetered, and it's all under code in terms of the wiring. It's currently two-phase. So that would be another concept. What we look like, in Tony's words, like a mini microgrid opportunity there, using some advanced PV technology. And so the third option would be a community solar design, which, if you guys are familiar with community solar, it's a virtual net metering process where we would design and install a solar apparatus, not necessarily to service the poles, but in a remote location. However, you guys would get credit on your bill for that installation. And so those are the three main concepts that we're considering when we come to some final determination on its impact to the town and what the economics look like. Any questions, clarification?
We had discussed the design phase being a necessary first step if you decide, and it looks like the design phase is pretty much funded except for our $6,000 contribution. The second grant for construction is $40,000, and depending on what option you pick, it could be, many, many times that amount. So we would need the planning document to help us cost out both what our investment in capital equipment might be and what the return on that investment might be in years, to determine whether you guys have an appetite for it.
Yes, absolutely. So, I mean, right now, I think the monthly bill is between $6,500, $7,000 a month. We're trying to cut that in half at a minimum with one of these different concepts. But we have to determine what that capital expenses looks like. And so the state is willing to support us in that endeavor.
Right. And I believe, I should have mentioned, and Khalid can go into a minute's worth of detail on that, that if we do come up with a feasible design, I believe it does open up much larger grant opportunities for construction. Is that correct?
Right. So the MSET grant, the implementation grant, is a 5-year grant. So you guys are in the first year of a 5-year grant period. Now, each subsequent year, you get up to $55,000 for the implementation of what program we come up with. The program has to be combined with renewable and an energy efficiency element. Transportation was part of that conversation, but it doesn't seem like to fit with what we're trying to accomplish with these streetlights. So at this stage, we're not really considering that out of the 3 policies. So if you do the calculation on that, 40,000 the first year, up to 55 the next 4 years, that's a combined about $250,000 that the town of Poolesville qualifies for, and doing energy efficiency upgrades or some sort of type of renewable application.
And it seemed just at first blush, for the investment, for taking the risk of $6,000, it looks like there's a good chance it could pencil out as a viable project, and that the substantial state funding moves the needle on the return on investment dramatically, and that's before you even get into the environmental kind of responsibility aspects of the project, which I think are also very important to us.
Agreed. And again, the challenge has been with the metering, the utility. They've acknowledged that when the poles were put in 20 years ago, that they didn't add meters, and it's been an ongoing issue. And so I think they're willing to meet us halfway in terms of coming up with some resolution, but we have to build that case around the need.
Caleb, I have a question or two, if I may. And I read this whole paper here, and on page 4, if I hope you have it in front of you, it has something to do with broadband data and security monitoring. I don't know how that connects into to LED streetlights. Can you fill in that gap?
Yeah, that's an optional. I think the state there's a bill that was being passed maybe a year or 2 ago about streetlights and updating them, adding some sort of cybersecurity element to it. But that's an option. If the town says, hey, we want to see what cybersecurity looks like on our poles, we can consider that in this study. If you're saying, hey, it's, you don't feel like it's necessary at this time, we don't have to undertake that during this process.
But just in reading this, it sounds like each pole would have its own little solar panel that would power the street light. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, looking at 3 concepts, we would look at what an individual pole would look like with a panel. We would look at what a transformer circuit or an aggregated circuit would look like, and then of course the community solar would be a remote installation.
And then this report also has your name. It says you will serve as the designated representative. Does that mean that you're kind of the project manager on this?
Yeah, I'm probably the most familiar with what's going on. I had been working on it for a while, so I would assume that project representative, project manager role. However, I believe John Strong and his organization would play a part in it. The 24 would come to us, come to turnkey in terms of doing all the planning and the design. And then John, it's envisioned that John would happy with how the information is being shared and put together.
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe just 1 or 2 more things. So also on page 7, it says the town is responsible for installing underground conduit cables to wireless submeters. Does that mean that people have their front yard dug up?
Well, that's part of the study. We would look at what the cost of that would look like. But that would be part of those first two options, the single pole and the aggregated pole scenario. Again, the community solar wouldn't be in a residential neighborhood. So the idea is to build a case to show how cost exorbitant it would to update all these poles to code, as well as add meters, which would totally take this, no one's going to want to undertake that type of project with that kind of, over $1 million. So that information could be used to take to the Public Service Commission, for example, to build what's called a waiver and say, listen, this is just too much. You guys, they made it, this wasn't done properly in the beginning. We don't want to bear the burden. Maybe the utility can share in the burden, or we can just go for an exemption for this process and just retrofit these pole heads without all the digging up the ground, if you will.
So the fact that everything is unmetered, that kind of presents us with a problem now, but it's water under the bridge. So.
Correct. Yeah. Metering. I mean, you got over 100 different aggregates, throughout the town. I mean, that would be 100+ meters. So that wouldn't make any sense, economic sense. So digging up the ground and adding meters is not a good solution. So the utility has to meet us halfway. The PSC has to say, listen, you guys have to figure this out, but we agree with the town. It doesn't make sense.
Do you have an indication that the utility will meet you halfway?
No, I can't.
No,
I
you do not.
No.
As long as you're honest about it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that they admitted that it was not done properly in the beginning is a sliver of hope that we have to show some effort. We have to say, listen, we put in the work, this is what it looks like. This is the cost, this is the amount of displacement that's going to have to happen to meet these utility requirements,
Okay.
There's got to be another way.
Yeah. So what was the expectation?
To build that case, we've got to do the research.
Yeah.
What was Jeff?
No, what was the expectation for tonight? Either you or Tony. Yeah.
I really just needed some feedback that we're willing to invest the $6,000, which, I technically could have just gone ahead and done, but it seemed like something that needed to be re-aired with everyone, and our preference is to do that in public, and then just move forward.
Did you already
When
get
would the study start?
Oh, within 30 days of the grant. That's what it says on the
Yeah,
thing.
we're pretty far into the grant already. When I talked to Brandon at MES, we're supposed to have already started monthly reporting. This package showed up on my desk the first day I showed up for work, and no one could adequately explain what it was.
So we're already a little bit into the study?
No, just their expectation was that we would have been, but we are not.
Okay.
Oh,
But they're really good about it. The environmental service was perfectly fine with where we are, and they understood.
Okay, great.
Well,
And
when I
they're
read-
really interested in it as a demonstration project as well, which is why they wanted to emphasize that, if it becomes just too big a monster for you guys to fund, we get it. But we'd like for you to go through the exercise to see if it's feasible.
Okay.
so you do or you do not need approval for 6,000?
I don't. I mean, it's not in the budget that I could find anywhere. So I would like concurrence, certainly.
You're just looking for guidance from us. Is that right, Tony?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll speak for myself. I'm in favor of spending the $6,000. Seems like we could get a good return here. And I also like to say thanks, Khalid, that was very helpful what you had to say, and thanks for being here.
Tony, did you get any input from John Strong?
Yeah, I talked to John several times about it, and John being a data and design guy, he's interested. $6,000 is, which would go to Clark Azar, is quite a small kind of side contract for them, but they're they find it interesting, I guess is the best I can say.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm definitely interested in moving forward with the project to, get more LED lights rather than these old, whatever they're called, halon lights or something.
Yeah, Helen.
Hale, yeah.
Okay,
So thank you.
so
Yep.
I'm good if you are.
Yeah, Tony,
I'm good.
I'm good with moving forward on it. So you have my support.
Thank you.
So it sounds like Caleb and John Strong are going to be working together closely.
I think so.
Okay, so well, thank you.
Thanks, Khalid, for being here tonight. Appreciate it.
Yes,
So
thank you.
thank you all for your time and consideration, and we're going to make the best of this.
We'll catch up by phone probably tomorrow, Khalid.
Sounds good. Thank you,
Thanks
Tony.
for being here.
Right.
Appreciate
Yeah,
your
thank
help.
you.
All right, have a
Thanks,
good night.
everyone.
So the next thing on our old business agenda is the holiday lighting ceremony.
Yes. A memo in your package from Kathy updated October 1st. They did a little bit of checking into what other people are doing. I just personally am used to having a holiday event. It actually, Jingle Jubilee is Gaithersburg's oldest event. It's over 90 years old.
Wow.
And they, yeah, and it's a really big deal. And even they have not been able to determine whether they're going to have that. Because the nature of the event is you have a packed crowd of people standing stationary around a tree.
Yep.
And it's difficult to move them around. So Kathy presented a memo. I assume you guys have it in your package.
Yep. Where
the committee, the events committee, suggests option B or C. I'm sorry, A or B. They did not recommend option C. I talked to her today because specifically both the ice skating rink and the sculpture tend to mass people together, which is difficult. And even the trackless train, is moving. But if you are in the airstream behind someone who may be unfortunately carrying the virus, you're going to be directly in that stream for the duration of your ride. So their recommendation is that we hold the tree lighting on December 3rd in person, and that the kind of the side events be the caroling, the ice carving demonstrations, you guys flipping the switch on the lights. And I believe Jeff is involved in seeing whether the fire truck with Santa Claus could kind of cruise the event.
Yeah, I told Kathy I would check into that. We have our
Yeah.
board meeting next, not this Tuesday, next Tuesday.
So that's the committee's recommendation is B. I know that Jim had some recommendations and other people have some thoughts. I mean, it is it at least it continues an event that's been quite popular, but it is scaled down, and it's kind of in the scale that other towns are taking. She studied Gaithersburg, Leesburg, Rockville, Silver Spring, and Tacoma Park. The last three don't have any events scheduled for the holiday. And Leesburg is going to have a parade, but their group event, the Jingle Jam and the tree lighting, have actually been canceled, or they have not made a decision.
Let me ask you, Tony, hypothetically speaking, if we were to put this on hold for now, and like a month from now, we learn that, COVID numbers are much better, things are looking better, could we revisit it, or do you need to know, does the events committee need to know soon?
That was a question, because it's like for the ice skating rink, you'd need to know now, because it's a rental, and it may or may not be available. For most of the other things, you probably have a few weeks. I don't know if we have a month to get into early November.
Yeah. So here's what I would propose.
Event.
I'm speaking for myself, obviously, but for me, I tend to give up. I tend to defer to the events committee and their recommendations. So I would say go with B, personally. And, if a month from now or 3 weeks from now or 2 weeks from now, like, things change, maybe we could revisit some of those other things. Obviously we lose out on the ice skating rink, but I would defer to what their thoughts were. I think B looks like a pretty good option to me.
I could see that as a logical way to proceed because the public is not thinking about this right now. The public's
Right.
not going to start thinking about this till mid-November.
Right.
So if we were able to add some stuff back,
Yep.
I don't think people would pay particular attention, frankly.
Yeah, I mean, and option B at least gets us something. It's still fun. It's festive. It's not quite as expanded as we've done in the past, but it's obviously better than last year. So
Yeah,
It's really the only thing is the ice skating rink that we would potentially lose out on if we waited.
well, the ice sculpture is actually kind of they could. There's a limited number of people who do that, so they could,
Right.
but that's not actually a recommended at this moment. And yeah, it's possible.
Just those two things.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't, it actually doesn't say, I assume this is a Saturday, December 3rd.
Let's see.
probably
Yeah.
a Friday night. Usually it's done on
Friday.
a Friday night.
Yes.
Friday
Friday
night?
night.
Okay, well, that actually helps. That it's not on a Saturday because, the sculptors who are being paid, they will give them 2 weekend days to work versus just the one.
And as you guys know from my memo, I'm in favor of all full speed ahead, doing all outdoor events, not doing anything inside whatsoever, and as much outdoor events as we can do. And I think I have a hard time understanding how we can hold Poolesville Day, and we can't do something like this, much smaller crowds, an event everybody looks forward to as much as more as that we do Poolesville Day, because this is really just for Poolesville people. And it's just disappointing to me that we're not talking about doing something that's pretty far reaching, but completely outdoors, masks encouraged, and have an event that our townspeople really look forward to, especially with 2 months left and a downward trend in terms of COVID cases and of the Delta variant. So, everybody, I can tell I'm not going to go do well on this one, but I'd like to see us move forward. And then if we have to cancel, that's a different story. But I think we should be planning on holding it. It's probably our most cherished event, more than Poolesville Day. And I'd like to see, and I want to be on record too, I'd like to see, I don't see why Santa still can't tour like he normally would. So Jeff, I'm counting on you for stepping up to the plate on that one.
I told Kathy I'd give it my, honestly, I'm certainly in favor of that as well. So, but it's not up to me alone. So,
Understand?
Well,
yeah, we'll get back to you on that. Yeah, but I
Jeff,
think
don't you have a convertible?
I do.
You see where I'm going with this, right?
Hey,
I'm just saying, in a pinch.
I think so. Yeah,
you can find a Santa suit.
and it's red as well. Yeah.
That's right. I'll pitch in for a Santa suit.
I could probably line up some reindeer.
Yeah.
Just-
Okay.
Anyway, it would. I'd really like to see us still try to figure out a way to plan to make this a good, safe, outdoor, time limited too, as I wrote in my email, time limited event, and then encourage everybody to be on their best behavior. Stay socially distanced, wear your mask, do the things that help. Everybody knows helps prevent the spread of COVID. Anyway.
Yeah, I think looking at maybe just examining it and see what outdoor activities have minimal risk. And then even if you station that, and even if you have certain things on the stage that take place, where something that's somewhat festive, somewhat safe, it's worth going back, taking a look at. Definitely no indoor things. Then also just looking at what was the discussion on vendors, even if you had a couple of vendors?
You mean the food vendor and the hot chocolate guy?
Food vendors.
I think we should have them. If we can get them, we should do it. How did we hold Poolesville Day and and for 10 times the amount of people. Not saying it was right or wrong. I think it was right, but how do we hold Poolesville Day for 10 times the amount of people and then and not hold this? And I also want to say too that if, I know you guys probably know this, but this is a big coming together for all faiths in Poolesville as well. And I take particular pride in having the menorah lit that night and having many of our Jewish families come and make a special night out of it. I think it's a great community builder for us. And it's like truly one of the things that makes Poolesville special. Not Poolesville Day is for 10,000 people. Holiday lighting for this time might be only 500 people or 700 people or something like that.
Mhm.
But it's a great day for us to come together.
Yeah, I think it sounds like option B we can all still come together, and it can still be like a great celebration to me.
Yeah, it's not everything I want it to be, but I get it.
And I'm not opposed to to revisiting this, and if those numbers keep going straight down, maybe in a month we say, okay, let's ramp this up.
But I
We've
guess-
definitely made, the county itself has made a pretty dramatic turn in the last couple of weeks.
Yep.
And we were already doing well.
Unfortunately, though, we're seeing some outbreaks in both our elementary and our middle school currently, which is
Right.
worrisome.
Outbreaks or symptoms.
Unfortunately, COVID
Quarantines.
positives, and and then of course with that, tons of kids quarantining.
Oh. Yeah, at the end of the day, county is still in the high transmission, just like every other county. So I'm not sure if this is a mathematical exercise, if you're looking for some level of transmission, but in 8 weeks, I certainly hope it's a lot less than it is now, but that still might get you just down to moderate transmission. So, I think what I'm hearing is option B, but we'll try to add some of the stuff from C. I'm just saying I can't promise you it's going to happen because it might not be available, especially the ice rink, which I actually saw pictures of the ice rink, and it was packed. So it was.
Yeah, the ice rink is a very wall-to-wall kid thing.
Yeah.
I'm okay with giving up the ice rink. I get it.
So here's just some food for thought. And I always use the school as a frame of reference, both the good and the bad. When I think about just what looking at regulations for certain events at the schools, as of last week, I know just going over events that are allowed at the school without some limitations on how many people can participate. And that was something that was on the indoor piece. I have yet to see anything change on that piece. And then on the other side, when I think about some of the sporting events that I've gone to over at the high school, and I see young kids, I see the high school kids all in the stands to watch the football games without that movement, you see everybody there. I was included, my kids are included, just at the football game, the high school football game. And then I think about just is there a way to have a few, not everything, but a few things that's more scalable, that is spread out, to have some distance there. Because also what I know is that you have people who will come, but they don't just stand in one spot. A lot of times they're moving around, checking some things out. So if there were things that were feasible and they were spread out along the commons, because especially the younger kids are not going to just stay in one spot. They kind of move and just, do those kinds of things. So we look at what's going to have low risk, or even looking at the characters where we have Frosty, Grinch, and Toy Soldier. Maybe you're not running up hugging the character, but at least in the crowd waving, just something to think about.
That's fair.
I love it. The more we can do that makes sense, the better. Kathy's listening.
Maybe we should just give Kathy the feedback that we want to proceed with as much as we can. So obviously nothing indoors and nothing that would prompt, close quarters of the children.
That's fair.
And good call, Ed, and good breakdown.
But just
Agreed.
see the caveat, if say you see a spike in numbers, of course, there's always an out if we have to use it.
Yeah.
So Kathy's probably looking for specific things, like we're approving B. Are we adding things to B? Because we should give her specific guidance, I think, here.
Well, do the food trucks cause people to congregate?
I
Because
think they can be done. I think they can be done safely. We
I
can.
think that's usually quite popular.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you got to do the food trucks, and we can request that, people stand 5 feet apart or whatever it is.
Yeah. And we'll probably have signs indicating we have to wear a mask.
Right. And I can tell you, as one who's been in the school, in my dual role with this whole acting assistant principal piece, and I've done the contract tracing, made the calls home. The things that we look at, is there a person who was within 3 feet distance for longer than 15 minutes? So that's just some of the things that we use as guidelines.
Just for whatever it's worth, obviously I'm not any kind of a doctor or expert, but I read that the Delta, the 15 minutes is now like 30 seconds or a minute or something like that, because it's that much more contagious. But take that for whatever it's worth.
So.
It sounds like we're kind of deciding on a tentative plan B.
Yeah, B with add-ons,
B
And
with some modifications.
the food trucks, yeah.
I will have a conversation tomorrow with Kathy and see what we can hold off on a little bit. It sounds to me B, but add, if we can get the food trucks or the vendors back, that'd be great.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's hard to get a food truck for 500 people, so we'd have to
Yeah, that's
either
true.
tell them that there's not going to be that many people,
Again,
or I'm sure the other restaurants in town would be happy to have an influx of crowds across the street.
and
But to add as many things from C as are reasonable, and then you're okay with spending those funds.
Yeah, I don't, in my opinion anyway, it's not the money. It's kind of the festivities and,
It's budgeted, so.
right.
And that's it, Tony, just looking at what's festive and safe. And so that everything doesn't have to be taken. Are there some things that could be included that have a higher degree of safety? And I think for some of the food trucks, when you look at all the events in different places that are canceled, perhaps a food truck might say, "Hey, here's a way to make some money, because making something is better than nothing. If everywhere you turn, a lot of things are canceled."
It's true.
True, yeah.
Okay, well, we'll probably Kathy will reach out with the follow-up, either by memo or email or something like that about what's feasible. And Martin's suggestion that we give it a little bit of time on some of these things seems doable.
Good.
Okay,
Thank you.
great. Thanks to Kathy for that report too.
Yeah.
All right, Tony, your
Okay,
town manager report.
let me pull that up here. Okay, so obviously we've had lots of discussions about the trash and recycling contracts, and we are working on some levels or several levels that, just give you a quick report. We began tracking the number of complaint calls that were received since late summer, and the staff did differentiate an inquiry call, of which there are many, many more than an actual complaint call. It peaked at 14 the week of September 13th. Last week was a great week. We only had 3. And the trend has been down each week because, they're showing up and performing under the contract, which is fine. That being said, the contract is in its last 8.5 months, and it's time to start thinking about whether we will get a new vendor or a new program. We are going to place what's known as a teaser ad on the Facebook page, assuming Facebook is working soon. And we'll probably tomorrow or the next day, teaser ad's just going to say, look for a resident survey in the coming weeks. It doesn't have details. It doesn't have dates. And that would go on the webpage and on Facebook, just to raise awareness that a resident survey is coming. And we began constructing that survey today. It's getting a little long, so we're trying to cut it down a little bit. I'd like to show you all a draft of the survey itself and the preamble that we've created. But it's definitely moving ahead with the speed that you guys have directed us to go ahead with it for. So you might see the teaser. You will not see the teaser on the message board out front of Town Hall, because that's really, really high profile. And I think that's just going to start saying, hey, where's my survey? So we're not ready to do that. We are investigating whether we need to pay for a survey document. The free services from SurveyMonkey and services like that are pretty limited in the structure of the answers. When we may want actual, people thinking, specifically about types of answers to questions that aren't yes, no, or on a scale of 1 to 10. Things about people's perceptions of recycling, how important it is to them, people's, the reasons, do they know that you're supposed to be putting trash in a hard-sided container with a tight-fitting lid, which we know is not happening universally throughout the town. Things like that help frame the discussion, and then we'll move into, what are the services that you're prioritizing, and frankly, what is it that people are willing to spend to get them. But it'll be launched with the teaser ads this week, and then you should see a draft of the survey document, which will not be in the form you'd see online. It'll just be a Word document shortly thereafter. We did order. Carrie reminded me that we've been expecting to install bike racks in a number of parks, and that was a budgeted item for last year, I believe. We did order those, signed a purchase order last week. So you'll see some Poolesville branded bike racks in a number of parks going in. The lead time is pretty long, I think 9 to 12 weeks. But
Wow.
at least it started.
Yay, thank you for that.
They're not being fabricated locally. That was the only way to get it done. I had an interesting meeting with our auditors, Brown, Schultz, Sheridan, and Fritz out of Frederick. They're headquartered in Westminster. They've been the town's auditors, I think, for 5 or 6 years. It mostly was an introductory meeting, but they did pass along that, their experience with the number of municipalities that they work with is that, the upcoming budget cycle could be quite challenging. Costs of materials are skyrocketing. And of course, the labor force is, in kind of open upheaval when it comes to wages and terms and conditions of employment. So just be ready for the beginning of next year when we start talking about budget. Things have just changed dramatically since the last couple. It usually takes a year or two for a municipal budget to start feeling the effects of recessions and pandemics and other influences like that. But their experience is it's hitting now. And we just have to react to that when the time comes. So just a little, a teaser for the budget for next year. And then I did have a conversation with John Strong today. He was stationed outside of Locals on Saturday morning. And he was, watching people walking back and forth to that. He said it was pretty busy. It was beautiful, beautiful day. But he did observe, some jaywalking. But the more he thinks about it, the more he really feels like the best solution we have is probably still signage, asking people to walk the 73 yards down to the corner to the crosswalk. I walked it today. It takes about 35 seconds across the street and 35 seconds back, which, I guess, a minute and a half is, when you're trying to get whatever it is that Locals is selling you, maybe you don't want to do it. But I think it would be good from not only prudent for the town from kind of a risk mitigation standpoint, but also, in reinforcing a habit that let's try and cross at the crosswalks when we can.
Maybe
It's-
that's what
it's-
we should put on the signs, that it takes
Uh,
35 seconds to
Maybe.
walk.
Well, it took Tony 35 seconds.
Okay.
So maybe other people could do it in 15. I don't know, but it is, John measured it 73 yards and I measured it in time today. But it just seems like, a crosswalk at that location is going to be very difficult to meet the warrants for a crosswalk. There's not an intersection there. And there is a crosswalk in pretty close proximity. So John's going to write it up and distribute it, but that is his recommendation, that we put signage that please go down to the crosswalk and cross. Do not cross at this point. Something along those lines. So he didn't forget, and he was there Saturday morning making his observations. So if anybody walked to locals and Jay walked, then I guess he didn't take your photo, but he's on the job.
Would it be possible to put some kind of aesthetically pleasing barrier or structure right behind the old town hall to kind of discourage folks from walking
There's-
through there?
I looked at it, I'm reminded of the barriers that Frederick has on Route 40, where there've been a number of pedestrian accidents with the Golden Mile,
Mhm.
where they put hard barrier fencing. There is a residence behind the old town hall, so not super sure. I think the solution is, probably either a dedicated pathway on that side of the street, or something along those lines. I gotta look again. I didn't specifically look for a
Plus, Carrie,
barrier.
if you put a barrier where
Oh, Martin froze.
Yeah, Martin, you froze.
I was going to try to guess what he was going to say, but I'm not sure where he was going.
It looked like he's there. He's back.
Here
Oh,
I
you
am.
froze. I'm sorry, Martin.
Um,
Can you say it again?
So I don't know how much you heard, but I was just saying that I think that if you were to put a barrier behind Old Town Hall between that and Jeff's house, I think people would just walk the extra 10 feet and cut in front of Old Town Hall, which is probably no safer. But this all brings us to the streetscape discussion that I think we need to have one of these days. Start sort of like ramping that up and looking for grants. And I know one of the components of streetscape is putting like a little island in front of Old Town Hall. That might make it a little safer. I think we need to look at the traffic pattern there too. Just the whole streetscape piece. I think at some point this board should talk about. We've approved a streetscape. It's time, in my opinion, time to start thinking about budgeting some money and looking for some grants.
Okay.
Okay.
But for the moment, is it okay if we look at some signs and
Yes,
get
please.
them up as soon as we can? Okay. That's my 4 items.
Thanks for that, Tony. That was great.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I am pleased that we got through a meeting pretty quickly this evening. I know we've had a lot of meetings lately, so I appreciate everybody's time. And unless there's anything else, I think we can hear a motion to adjourn.
Hey, Carrie, just one thing. I just want to publicly commend Tony for jumping in. There were a lot of things that had to be dove into. And so, Tony, thank you for just jumping in. And I recognize this, there's a lot of different things to navigate. So I just want to say thank you. And that's it.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you, Tony. You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I appreciate you.
Thank you for that. Would anyone like?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Thanks, Martin. Anyone would like to second?
Second by Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Nice seeing you guys. See you next time.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care.